Inference Plus Story Short Number 22, Series B. After 4 months on the trail, Addie decided that the word trail was not entirely accurate. A trail was wide and clearly marked, and this was neither. On days when she felt generous, she'd have called it a path. On days when she felt tired or discouraged, she'd have called it a thicket. For the better part of the time, she couldn't see the trail at all and wondered how on earth the wagon train's guide had the faintest idea where they were. Addie was fairly certain there were plenty of times when even he wasn't sure, had lost the trail, but somehow they always managed to pick it up again. It was a thought she kept to herself for fear of stirring up trouble. Tempers were hot enough without any help from her. Just last week, 2 of the single men brought along to mind the cattle had woken up the whole camp with a brawl over the Donovan's oldest girl, and the one called Jerry was shot. The blood came out so fast, there wasn't anything to be done, so they'd simply stood outside the wagons in their nightclothes. The captain shot the one who did it, Davy, through the head, and buried them both in a single grave. Addie whispered to Pap that what he'd done was wrong. They should have taken him to a sheriff, had a proper trial. Pap had given her a humorless smile and said this wasn't the city and the captain had done right. You let a man get away with a thing and before you know it you'll have a mess on your hands. Can't have a mess out here. Better to fix a problem quick. Addie nodded in spite of her nagging discomfort. She knew as well as anyone the dangers of this journey, but the sight of the captain aiming his rifle without even pausing on the trigger still made her feel cold inside. The issue of the water had made everyone more tense. There had been a delay after delay early on, a broken axle that had to be repaired, a river too high to cross, and the generally slow pace that was inevitable with wagons and children. Thinking back to that high, angry river now, Addie felt not fear, but longing. After that first 6 weeks, the weather had turned unseasonably dry. At first, they counted it as a blessing. Less mud, easier travel. But now the water barrels were nearly empty, and the scummy bit that remained was only safe for the animals. Even that would be gone soon enough, and then there would be real trouble. They'd taken to getting up just as dawn was cracking the cloudless sky out to scrape the dew from the canvas of the wagon covers, and that was the water they drank. It was not enough. It was never enough, and the sound of the little ones whining had driven more than one mother to dole out a slap. Addie's own mother was gone, laid in the ground just 2 weeks after they left Dodge City. 1 minute she'd been holding the reins and fussing at the oxen, and the next she'd simply fallen from the seat and into the mud of the road. Dead, it seemed, before she ever hit the ground. Pap said it was most likely her heart, which had never been particularly strong. It had been one of his worries about the journey, but Ma had insisted. There's nothing for us here, nothing for Addie. Better to take a chance than fed away piece by piece. Addie wondered if Pap regretted it now, a question that hung between the 2 of them unspoken, and when they bowed their heads over the dinner plates or sat together near the fire. If he had asked her, she would have told him plainly that she did not blame him, but Pap was not the conversational sort, so the question squatted there, heavy and stagnant, chaining them to their grief. And then the water was really and truly gone, the barrels dry as the earth below. They shot oxen. They came upon a little ribbon of water, sluggish and brown, and the guide told them not to drink. It isn't clean, better to go without. But the thirst, it burned and scraped and devoured. Many drank, but Pap forbade it. When a guide says not to drink, don't drink. So Addie waited until Pap's snores filled the wagon and crept out to the murky pool, where she fell onto all fours and drank like an animal. And the next day, when her stomach cramped so painfully she could not walk, she laid in the jostling wagon and hoped above all else that Pap would not blame himself.